The story begins at MIT, a renowned American college. We see Professor Gerald teaching his math class. After the lecture, he informs his students, "I'm going to write a very difficult math problem on the board outside the classroom. If any of you solve it, your name will be engraved in golden letters in the college." He also motivates his students by saying that some of his students have solved this problem before, and today, they are at the top of their fields. This problem is very difficult. Seeing this, Professor Gerald gives them until the end of the semester so they can take their time and solve it. The lecture ends and we see a man named Will Hunting, who works as a cleaner there, who saw the math problem the professor had written. Will later goes home and starts solving the equation on his bathroom mirror. The next day, when he was all alone, he picked up the chalk and wrote down the answer to the problem. This was a significant achievement, as he had solved it in just one day. Besides work, Will spent all his time hanging out with his friends. One day, while watching a baseball game, Will saw a boy who had been teasing him at school. The sight of him filled Will with rage. He went up to him with his friends and started a fight. Finally, in retaliation, Will beat the boy severely. His friends stopped him to prevent the situation from escalating. But by then, the police arrived, and when the police tried to stop him, he attacked them, resulting in his arrest. Meanwhile, Professor Gerald learned that the math problem he had written had been solved. He immediately went to check and found that someone had indeed solved his question correctly. He asked some of his brightest students, "Is this the work of any of you?" But when they too refused, the professor was completely shocked. Anyway, the professor's next class was packed. Everyone wanted to know who the unknown math genius was. The professor said, "Whoever solved it, please come forward. I want to give them their prize." But the entire class stared at each other. No one came forward. When no one came forward, the professor told his students, "I'm writing another math problem that took me 2 years to solve. Now, whoever among you is that math genius won't be able to solve it in a day." Meanwhile, Will had just gotten out of jail. He finished his cleaning and immediately started solving the problem. Just then, Gerald came out of his office and saw Will writing on the board. He tried to stop Will, thinking he was just doing something random. Seeing the professor approaching, Will ran away. Later, when the professor returned, he saw that Will had actually solved his problem. It had taken him 2 years to solve, but this boy had solved it in no time. Now he knew who the secret math genius was. After work, Will met his friends and went back to the bar for a few drinks. Seeing some beautiful girls there, Will's friend Chalky approached them and started flirting. To impress the girls, Chalky casually lied, "Yes, I also study here at MIT. I'm a genius." Just then, a man interrupted and asked, "Which class do you study in?" Chalky replied, "History." The boy, realizing he was lying, began insulting Chalky and deliberately questioning him on history topics. Poor Chalky didn't know anything, so he remained completely silent. Then Will stepped forward for his friend and began debating with the man. Once Will read something, he never forgot it. His facts and diction were so clear that he silenced the boy. He also insulted him, saying, "You read it from that book, right? You're just talking about memorized things." Will mocked him, saying, "You're spending thousands of dollars. Still, if you want to talk about memorized things, I learned them in the public library." After all this, the man shrugged and left. Later, one of the girls, named Skylar, approached Will and gave him her phone number. Seeing Will's intelligence, Skylar had taken a slight liking to him. Skylar said, "Call me someday when you have time." Will later shared that number with the boy who was trying to act smart. Meanwhile, Professor Gerald was searching for the cleaner who had solved his difficult problem so easily. After a little investigation, he found Will's contact number and then went straight to Will's court hearing. He was charged with assaulting a police officer. Will tried his best to defend himself in court, but the judge said, "You already have charges of theft and assault." The judge said, "Now I can't ignore the scuffle with the police." Finally, the judge jailed him, saying he would have to pay $1,000 or about $400,000 if he wanted to get bail. With that, Will was sent to jail. But there, he met Professor Gerald, who had a deal for him. He told Will, "I've spoken to the judge and I'm ready to get you released, but you have to agree to 2 conditions." The first condition was that Will would attend math classes with Professor Gerald, and the second was that he would have to undergo counseling. Will laughed at this, but he didn't want to be in jail either. He had no other option, so he agreed to all the conditions. Soon, he began his math classes with Professor Gerald, who was astonished by Will's sharp mind. Now, according to the second condition, he would have to undergo counseling with a therapist, but no matter how many therapists he visited, Will would refuse to open up to them. On top of that, he would mock them. He would read their books the day before, and then insult them the next day. As a last resort, Professor Gerald sought help from his old friend, Shay McGuire, who now taught psychology. Shay initially said, "I don't have time for this." But when Gerald tried to convince him that the boy was very special, he agreed. If he doesn't get back on the right path, he'll ruin his life. After hearing all this, Shay finally relented and met with Will, just as he had with his previous therapists. Will had also read Shay's book, and now he started mocking him based on it. But Shay maintained patience and had a completely normal conversation with Will without asking him anything about his life. Then Will noticed a painting Shay had painted himself. Looking at the painting and some art books, Will started talking nonsense about Shay's life. Shay still didn't pay much attention to Will's words, but then Will brought up Shay's wife. The mention of his wife made Shay a little angry. Will understood that Shay's weakness was his wife, so he started bringing her up repeatedly. He asked why Will's wife wasn't there. Had she cheated on him and run off with someone else? Upon hearing this, Shay completely lost his temper and grabbed Will by the throat. He warned Will, "Don't ever disrespect my wife again." Will then told him, "Time's up." Will let him go, and Will walked out, thinking he had ruined a therapist again. Seeing Will's mood, Professor Gerald thought he wouldn't agree to more sessions, but Will said, "Yes, I'll counsel her. Bring her to me regularly next week." After counseling, Will went on a date with Skylar. On the date, Will learned that Skylar came from a very wealthy family and was currently studying at Harvard. They had a wonderful time together. At the end of their beautiful first date, they kissed. When Will came to visit Will the next week, Will said, "Let's go out and talk." Will took Will to a park and started talking to him. He told Will, "I've thought a lot about what you said. In the end, I realized you're just a little kid who doesn't know what he's saying. You're a bit rude." Shaw said to Will, "I understand you don't want to speak up. Maybe you're afraid, but son, remember one thing. You have to speak up someday, or you'll lose all the good things in life." The next day, Will went to work at a construction site with his friend, Chucky. He called Skylar, but she was gone. He was afraid to talk. In his third therapy session with Shesh, Will didn't say a word, and Sh didn't either. Both remained silent for an entire hour. The fourth session began similarly, with no one speaking. But then, bored, Will told Sh a joke, taking it as a hint that Will might want to talk. Sh asked him if he had a girlfriend. In response, Will told him about Skylar, how their first date went great, but now he couldn't talk. Sh asked why. Will replied, "I think Skylar is too good for me, and if I keep seeing her, everything will go wrong. Someday, she'll realize I'm not worthy of her." She explained to him that no one is better than anyone else. Everyone has some good and some bad qualities, but the important thing is whether or not that person is right for you. Explaining this further, Esh talked about his wife, saying she was a wonderful person. "I loved her very much, but she sometimes farted in her sleep." Her words changed the atmosphere of the room. Will and Sh both burst into laughter. At that moment, they drew closer, and Will began to feel a little more comfortable around Sh. The session ended, and Sh suggested that he go talk to the girl. Will was so engrossed in Sh's conversation that he had to be reminded that the session was over. "Let's get out of here." Obeying Sh, Will went to Skylar's college and asked her out again. Skylar said, "I want to go out with you, but I have a very difficult problem to solve, which could take several days." Unable to wait any longer, Will asked her to show him the question. Seeing the question, she quickly wrote the answer on a napkin. Then Will said, "Now you have no excuses. Come with me." During their second date, Skylar asked Will about his family, and Will lied, saying he had 12 brothers. Skylar replied, "Well, tell me the names." And Will quickly rattled off 12 random names in sequence. Skylar suspected he was lying and told him to repeat the names again. But Will, being the genius that he is, repeated them in the same sequence. Anyway, Will met Will at his next therapy session and asked him if he ever regretted meeting his wife. "You must have been very lonely after her death, and since you loved her so much, you must have been very sad." In response, Will told her how he met his wife. The first time I saw her, she was waiting in line with her friends to buy tickets to a baseball game. It was a classic match, Will said. You saw that game live. How lucky you are, man. She explained. I only saw the game on TV later. I left my friends to go on a date with that girl, the girl who would later become his wife. Will couldn't believe she had given up such a great game to spend some time with a girl. Ash replied, I never regretted meeting her. Even though she was only in my life for a few years, those years were the most beautiful. Later, Skylar asked Will, why don't you introduce me to your friends and family? Will had still lied to her about his life, but he agreed to introduce her to his friends. Skylar, Will, and his friends met at a bar, and Skylar really liked his friends. They all had a great time together. Just then, Professor Gerald Eish came to inquire about Will's progress. Sean said that Will was slowly starting to open up, but it would take some more time to make him completely comfortable. Professor Gerald explained, I'm looking for a top-notch job for Will. He'll crack the interview easily just as long as his mental problem is fixed. Then no one will be able to stop him from making a name for himself in the field of math. Sean said, are you his father, making life decisions for him? Let him do whatever he wants. He's a genius. Just because he has to do it doesn't mean he has to do it. But Professor Gerald said, he can't do anything else. I can. I won't let Will's talent go to waste. But Will wasn't interested in such a job, so he sent his friend Chucky to the interview in his place. One night, while discussing their lives, Skylar asked Will, "Will come with me to California?" Will became nervous and said he couldn't go with her. "My whole life is here." Skylar asked him, "I know you love me, so why are you so afraid to come with me completely? And you never tell me the truth." She also told him, "I know you lied about having 12 brothers." When this lie came to light, Will lost his temper. He said, "What do you want to know about me? I'm an orphan. I don't know where my parents are. I've spent most of my life bouncing from one family to another. The family I was placed with as a child used to beat me. They beat me like a dog." Skylar started crying and told Will, "It's okay, I'm with you. I'll stay with you no matter what." But Will pushed her away and said, "I don't need anyone's help." Deep down, Will feared that if he let someone get close and then that person left him, he wouldn't be able to bear it. Skylar cried and said, "I love you very much. I'll never leave you." But Will lied, saying, "I don't love you," and left. Leaving Skylar alone in his room, crying, Will finally agreed to the job after Professor Gerald's persistent insistence. Will went for the interview but didn't try to take the job. In the therapy session, Shaw asked him who he trusted most in his life. Will replied, "My friend, Chucky." Shaw said, "Yes, I do. You have a friend like a brother. I'd give my life for you, but you can't spend your life with friends." Shaw then asked him, "How do you earn your living?" Will replied, "I work as a daily wage laborer. I'm very good at construction." I'll do it all my life. I'll earn, I'll eat." Sheesh told Will that you've worked all your life, so it's become your comfort zone. You're afraid to step out of it, and that fear will prevent you from living a fulfilling life. Shu didn't tell him to take the job Gerald is telling you to. Instead, he asked Will what he wanted to do with his life. Will jokingly replied, "I want to herd sheep." Knowing Will wasn't serious, Shu asked him to leave his office. He said, "I don't want to waste my time. You must have free time, but I don't. If you don't answer honestly, then get out." This angered Will, and he started yelling at Shea. Sheesh asked him again what he wanted to do with his life. Will remained silent again. He didn't answer. Sheesh told him to get out of here. Go. Before Skylar left for California, Will called him and said goodbye. Skylar said, "I love you," one last time. Will smiled, but fear held back. He still felt like he was bound to get heartbroken. The next day, while talking to Chucky, Will said, "I'm not going to take any jobs, and now that Skylar is gone, we'll work in construction here. We'll live comfortably in the neighborhood." Hearing this, Chucky opened his heart. He told Will, "Look, I'll see you here in 10 years, but I'll be very sad if you don't see me here after 10 years. Chucky replied, "I have only one dream. Every morning when I go to your house to pick you up, my heart whispers, I wish I wasn't here today. I wish I was doing something good with my life." Meanwhile, Professor Gerald was struggling to find Will a job. "Why can't he convince Will to take it?" Sean said. We shouldn't force Will to make such big decisions in his life. He doesn't even know what he wants to do yet. He explained that Will fears abandonment, which is why he doesn't let people come near him. Gerald disagreed. Sean told Will not to let Will ruin his life. "Do you want to make him a failure like you?" Sean replied, "I'm not a failure. I chose this life. I like it so much. I'm happy with it." Just then, Will came in and overheard their conversation. Professor Gerald left the room so the therapy could begin. Sean had a file containing photographs of Will's body, bearing the marks of his foster father's beatings. Will asked, "Have you ever seen a child beaten so brutally?" Sean replied, "My father was an alcoholic. He would beat me and my mother when I was a child." Sean's story brought back memories of his childhood. Sean came to Will and said, "Whatever happened to you, son, wasn't your fault." Will nodded in agreement, but Sean kept insisting, "It wasn't your fault. It wasn't, son." Finally, Will said, "I know." But Sean kept repeating, "It wasn't your fault. It wasn't. Accept it." Hearing this, tears welled up in Will's eyes. He pushed Sean away. Sean again said, "Whatever happened wasn't your fault." And finally, Will broke down. He hugged Sean and sobbed loudly. Now he was ready to move on, leaving behind his past. He said Sean would take one of the jobs Professor Gerald had arranged for him. With this, his last therapy session ended. Will asked Sean if he wanted to talk again. Sean replied, "The doors are always open." After which, Will hugged Sean and said goodbye. On his 21st birthday, his friends had given him a car. The car wasn't new, but Will was overjoyed with the gift, as it was from his best friends. Meanwhile, Professor Gerald went to Shaw and apologized for calling him a failure. The two estranged friends reunited, and Shaw explained that he was going on a world tour. "I don't make that much money. I understand." While Shaw was packing his things, Will pulled up outside Sean's house and watched him get ready for the trip. Will walked up to the door, left a letter in Sean's mailbox, and then left. Meanwhile, Chucky went to Sean's house to take Will to work. He knocked on the door, but there was no answer. He peeked through the window and saw Will wasn't home. Chucky smiled, realizing Will had decided what he wanted to do with his life. Shaw also found the letter Will had left. In the letter, Will had written that he wasn't taking the job. He was going to California to meet Skylar. Sean smiled after reading it and went inside. Well, he got a girl. Now our genius will definitely do something good. If you enjoy what we do here, please like the video and subscribe to this channel to keep us motivated. See you on the next video.